Hello everyone and welcome back to the One Stop Co-op Shop. This is Colin and today we're going to start Quest 1B, or Scenario I should say, 1B of the Dream Eaters campaign. We're going to be playing with two new characters, Patrice and Joe, and we are going to we are going to be in the real world, at least that's what I think that we are going to be, in comparison to Luke and Tony who are currently in the dream world, actually not having too bad of a time. We'll see if that's the case for us. Now at the time of recording this, the first video is not live yet, so if there's anything I did wrong in the last video that I didn't catch before this, I will not have that fixed yet. I'll keep letting you guys know where I'm at as I'm recording, so hopefully if there's anything wrong I can catch you up next time. So what we're going to do for our Web of Dreams campaign is we're going to go ahead and read the introduction for Joe and Patrice. It has been more than 24 hours since your companions fell asleep. Over the course of the past day, your curiosity has slowly turned to concern and then to dread. The problems began when one of your friends started to toss and turn violently in their sleep. Must have been Tony. You snapped to attention and tried to shake them awake, but it was to no avail. You tried everything. Physical contact was no use, and water did nothing but soak their clothes and bed fruitlessly. Even opening their eyelids did not wake them, and in the process you noticed that their pupils had fully dilated and their eyes were glazed over with a milky white fog. You have no idea what this could mean for your friends. Have they managed to find their way to the land Virgil Gray described in his writings? Or has something more sinister taken root within their minds and bodies? Just to be safe, you decide to take your companions to St. Mary's Hospital. If something ails them physically, perhaps the doctors there can discern what is wrong. Heck no. Otherwise, you will simply have to watch over them and hope they will return safely to the waking world. St. Mary's is the only hospital in the town of Arkham, and it is a fixture of its uptown neighborhood. You explain the situation to Nurse Greenberg, the head nurse at the hospital, who instructs several other nurses to carry your companions into the emergency ward on stretchers. She tells you with a warm, friendly smile that your friends will be examined by Dr. Maswaran, but other than that, you are left entirely in the dark. Hours pass. You hear nothing about the status of your companions. You still have not met the Dr. Mahaswaran, and you're starting to grow impatient. You feel something crawling along your arm, and you instinctively brush it away, then wonder if it was an insect or a figment of your imagination. Oh, it's going to be a spider! You begin to question whether bringing your friends here was the right choice after all. It wasn't. Eventually, you decide to take matters into your own hands. It is late at night, and the receptionist who instructed you to stay in the waiting room is nowhere to be seen. In fact, there are eerily few people roaming the halls of the hospital. With nobody to stop you, you sneak off into the emergency ward to find your friends. It does not take long for you to find their room. Your companions lie asleep on clean, white cots, their sleep anything but peaceful. They are pale-faced and sweaty. One of them tosses and turns in their sleep, their brow furrowed with pain or worry. Dr. Mahaswaran does not seem surprised by your intrusion. Shivani Mahaswaran, she introduces herself coldly, without looking up from her clipboard. You're the ones who brought them in, right? Before you ask, no, I've never seen anything like this before in my life, she says with a hint of dry impatience. You demand that she tells you everything she knows about their condition and not give you the runaround. With a sigh, she puts her clipboard down and addresses you frankly. Listen, I may be new to Arkham, but I've seen enough inexplicable maladies in this town to fill entire careers in medicine. I understand why you're concerned. Your friends, she struggles to find the right words, they are not simply asleep. It is as if they are hovering somewhere between sleep and unconsciousness, or even death. They are not aware of anything happening around them, but appear to be reacting to some kind of internal stimuli. Without hesitation, you ask if they are dreaming. Dreaming? Dr. Mahaswari replies. It is unlikely, though it might account for their mannerisms. Honestly, and I know this is not exactly reassuring, none of this makes any sense to me, medically speaking. Just then, you see a large, hairy spider crawling on the chest of one of your friends. Well, that is odd. Dr. Mahaswari brushes the spider off, and several more emerge from the sheets to take its place. You and the doctor both take several steps back out of pure instinct. You hear heavy footsteps in the hallway outside the emergency ward, and then the lights begin to flicker. Okay, that is more than simply odd. What in the world is going on here? Dr. Mahaswaran asks anxiously. For just a moment, you think you hear one of your sleeping companions whisper something. Are they indeed dreaming? And if so, what does their condition have to do with these strange events? Now we have to decide, do we convince Dr. Mahaswaran to come with us while we investigate, for her safety and for yours, proceed to Intro 2, or convince Dr. Mahaswaran to stay with the patients and keep them safe? I don't know why, but I want her to come with me. I don't particularly feel like I want to leave someone there. Granted, I'm leaving 2 of my companions, so what does that say about me? I don't know. I'm going to have her come with me, so we're going to do Intro 2. Yes, I suppose that makes sense. There's been no change in their condition for the past few hours anyway. Dr. Mahaswaran's gaze shifts nervously to and fro, searching for more spiders. Also, I'd very much like to get out of this room now, so lead the way, she adds. You nod and venture back into the hospital's waiting room. Record in your campaign log that Dr. Mahaswaran joined the investigation. For setup, we need to grab all these encounter cards. These 2 come from the core set. These 3 come from the new, the Dream Eaters expansion itself. We need to set these 2 ones aside. You know that we are going to see spiders. We need to put the waiting room, the emergency room, the experimental therapies ward, why would they have that, and records office into play. Each investigator begins at the waiting room. We need to check the campaign log. If Dr. Mahaswaran joined the investigation, we get to put Dr. Shivani into play under the lead investigator's control. So I'm going to have Patrice be the lead investigator, and her card looks like this, just so you can see it. We have, you can't see it all the way. There you go. She has 1 health, but 3 sanity. Exhaust Dr. Shivani, automatically evade and engage suspicious orderly. When an investigator reveals a skull or a cultist symbol on an infestation token, what is that? Remove Dr. Shivani from the game, cancel that token, and return it to the infestation bag. Oof. Sounds like we can maybe sacrifice her to the spiders. Oh, that sounds terrible. We'll set each of the remaining locations aside out of play. We'll have to set these following cards out of play. The Randolph Carter card, all 3 outbreak treacheries, and both the corrupted orderly enemies. Set the double-sided infestation begins story card aside out of play. This story card has a different scenario reference card, blah, blah, blah. We'll probably see that soon. And then shuffle the rest into the encounter deck. Here we have the waiting room. Above here is the records room. Over here is the emergency room, and this is the experimental theories ward. So the waiting room is connected to the emergency room and to the records office and to the experimental ward. The ward is just connected to the waiting room. Emergency is just connected to the waiting room, and the records office is just connected to the waiting room. Oh, and I should say the emergency room is also connected to the experimental wards. The hospital's waiting room is pleasant but boring, with several rows of benches and chairs. Nearby, a short bookshelf is filled with a variety of reading material, most of which you find dreadfully monotonous. In the corner of the windows, silken webbing creeps along the glass, spun almost on its own accord. Was that there when you first arrived? Yeah, probably not. So we have, while waiting room is not infested, it gains, you can resign, you flee the hospital, leaving your companions behind. Ooh. That sounds terrible. And it has 2 clues. A heavy, ominous feeling haunts you as you explore St. Mary's Hospital. Its halls are eerily dark and empty of everything but the occasional orderly making the late-night rounds. Lights flicker and shadows seem to dart from corner to corner. The hospital's maze of corridors has begun to take an almost dreamlike haziness. You notice yet another spider crawling up your leg and brush it away, wondering what is causing them to appear so often. Something is wrong with your companions, and while medical science has come far, it can't account for what is happening to them. You've decided to take it upon yourself to figure out what's wrong and set things right. So our agenda card will move after 2 doom is placed there, aka it's going to be essentially 2 rounds, maybe even less. And then we need 8 clues to advance our act deck. Ooh, 8 is a lot. Let's take a look at our investigators. Patrice Hathaway is our first investigator. All her life, Patrice has lived for music. The soaring sonatas, the grateful arias, and the booming marches have always been her closest companions. But sometimes when she plays, she can sense some alien intelligence at the edge of her awareness. Something that watches her and waits. Something that hungers. The presence has been growing over the last month, and her increasing nervousness is starting to spoil her ability to play the violin. That's not something she can tolerate. After her last concert at the Ward Theater in Arkham, she finally decided to take action. Now, she's kind of cool. Her deck size is 42. She's going to have 42 cards. She can have Survivor cards 0 through 5, Mystic cards 0 through 2, and Neutral cards 0 through 5. She has 4 willpower, 2 intelligence, 2 combat, and 2 agility, so not the greatest stat line. She also has her maximum hand size reduced by 3. So normally you can have 8 cards in hand, she can only have 5. But during each upkeep phase, instead of drawing 1 card, discard all non-weakness cards in your hand and draw up to your hand of 5 cards. So she reminds me a ton of Aristor from Lord of the Rings, where you're going to try and play as many cards as you can, because at the end of the round, you're just going to discard them all and draw all new ones. Her Elder Sign effect is +1. After this test ends, you may shuffle all but 1 card from your discard pile into your deck. So if, let's say, you had your weakness in your discard pile, you could leave it there. Totally cool. Now, for her deck, I'm also going to be dropping 2 arcane researches. So that means she starts off with 2 mental trauma right at the get-go, and that's just because of the card itself. It states that when you purchase this, you are going to gain 1 mental trauma, and I'm doing both of those. But I'm doing those for a little bit different reason for her, and you'll see why when we play with her. It's this deck looks to be a lot of fun. I haven't played it yet, but it's all about getting her down to 3 sanity left, because then all those skill cards that have like 4 skill icons, she can play them all, and I've got them all in her deck. Her basic weakness is amnesia, and this one says choose and discard all but 1 card from your hand. So that will happen to her if she draws that card. Let's go ahead and draw up her 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So she has Impromptu Barrier, St. Hubert's Key, that's really what we were looking for. Perception, Peter Sylvester, which normally is a really good pull at the beginning, but we already have our 1 ally, and Fearless. So I think 1, 2, 3. I think those 3 I'm going to shuffle back in. I'm going to keep these 2. We've shuffled up 3, 4, and 5. Look at that Desperate Search. Great. Those all are going to be useful as long as we have 3 or fewer remaining sanity. And that's where St. Hubert's Key comes into play, because that will give us -2 sanity. So yeah, that's kind of the fun part of this deck. Our second investigator is Joe Diamond. Joe Diamond is a private eye with a reputation for handling cases that everyone else regards as supernatural nonsense. He is thorough in his investigations and not one to be trifled with. His services have been employed by the wealthy as well as those down on their luck. No case is too large, too small, too strange, or too dangerous. In Joe's experience, things start getting nasty right when you start reaching the truth, and that's exactly where he likes to be. So he's a fun one. He's the only one of all 4 of these that I've actually played before, and I really love playing him. I loved him so much I wanted to have him in this campaign. His deck size is 40 with a bit of a twist. So he can have secret cards 0 through 5, guardian cards 0 through 2, neutral cards 0 through 5. He has a deck building requirement that he has to have the Detective Colts and the Unsolved Case and 1 random weakness. But he has this additional requirement. This says your deck must include at least 11 insight events, including the Unsolved Case, which is a weakness card. During the setup of each scenario, you must choose 11 insight events from your deck and shuffle them into a separate hunch deck. How the hunch deck works is this forced effect. When the investigation phase begins, reveal the top card of your hunch deck. Until the end of the phase, you may play that card as if it was in your hand at -2 cost. If it's still revealed at the end of that phase, of the investigation phase, shuffle it back into your hunch deck. He's not the most wise, he only has 2 for his wisdom, but you can see his intellect and his combat are both 4, with his agility also being 2. So he's kind of fun because he can do both combat and he can do some intellect as well. So he can do some searching, some cluing. We'll go ahead and draw his 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And don't forget, this is his hunch deck, which we won't reveal until the investigation phase. We have Dr. Milan. I like to see that. Oh, and an emergency cache. Going to keep both of those. Oh, I like this one because we can commit it when there's clues at our location, which there are. Oh, I like shortcut. I'll take the initiative. Yeah, you know what? You know what? I'm going to keep those 3, and I'm going to the shortcut's so good. Okay, I'm just going to mulligan take the initiative. Let's see what we get for that. Instead, we get a flashlight, which actually isn't terrible. The biggest thing I don't have is a weapon. I don't technically need one. Milan is great because giving us 5 for our book will make us really solid for investigating. But combat might be iffy because Patrice will be kind of on again and off again. It's going to be a fun combo. I'm really interested to see how these two play out together. The 2 final items to show you before we start our scenario. One, we want to show you what the different chaos tokens are going to mean. So skulls are -1 or -3 if you're engaged with a staff enemy. We have the cultist reveal another chaos token. If you fail and it's an agenda 2 or 3, make an infestation test. Ugh, I don't still know what that is. And then this one is X minus X. X is the number of infested locations. And you can see here, this is definitely a different setup for our chaos bag. So I wrote the chaos bag tokens for the other part of the scenario on my sheet. But this one, we're going to have these little crazy dude guys instead of the rock ones. So interesting. And we have more -1s, 3 -1s instead of only 2 -1s. And I think with that, we are ready to jump in. Hope you guys will join me in the playthrough. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you at the next stop.